Rose. Without getting into any stories, I know what it is like to get out of situations and suddenly feel the freedom to think what I want, to form my own opinions, to not walk on eggshells, to not be afraid of reaction to my actions or lack thereof, and to be able to literally breathe without fear of any kind on any level. The freedom of being micromanaged and the feeling of other literally breathing down my neck. A lot of stories people have shared on your show, Leah's show, etc., have talked of not having outside contact or the freedom to just do what they want, when they want, or in some cases, what they can or cannot wear and eat. My question to you is, did you feel that sudden weight lifted and that freedom too when you left? I've been curious about some of your guests and Leah's former guests too. How did you feel once you didn't have to recruit, work, and all things Scientology? Did you feel like you could breathe for the first time? Did you have to unlearn, deprogram, detox in your own way, or through professional assistance? To me, it's a level of PTSD that everyone experiences. I'm always curious about how people coped after leaving or escaping their situations. Okay, so it was about 7 years ago now, around now, this time of the year, March, that I first started doing my deep dive into what Scientology was all about on the internet after having left the Sea Org. And it's been quite a journey since then. I've detailed it, in detail here on my channel. How I felt when I first got out of Scientology is, I guess, the moment that I'm going to mark as that moment is the moment after I got off the phone with the senior INR hack. That was his post title, the Senior Director of Inspections and Reports for the Pacific Base. I got off the phone with him after he told me that I had been declared a suppressive person. This was around December 17th or so of 2013. And after I got off that phone call, that was when the monkey was off my back. That was when the gorilla was actually off my back. I felt it. I felt it lift. And it was like a mass, like this dark cloud mass was on me, and it left. And if that sounds somewhat akin to Scientology success stories or something, well, that's the background I'm used to describing these kinds of things with. But that was how it felt, and it was a weight. It literally felt like a weight off my shoulders. Of course, it wasn't. I didn't really have this weight on my shoulders, but that's what it felt like. And I knew that I had hit a point of no return. There was no going back. I was declared. It was over. I had now formally gone through the mill, and I had been labeled, and the Church of Scientology was no longer going to have anything to do with me, at least on any kind of a social level, right? In any sort of like amicable way. And no Scientologist was ever going to talk to me again. And that was okay, because I mourned the loss of all of those people. I had already started earlier, of course, when I saw the writing on the wall. And that really sucked. But I also did not yet know, and what I learned over the coming months as I then started speaking out publicly under my own name, is how many people I had known over the years who had already left too. And that just added to the relief of, reconnecting with people who had been keeping their distance from me, or had not even known I was, out of Scientology until, they'd been keeping their distance until I got out. So that was unlooked for. I didn't see that coming at all. And I don't know what other words to use except the ones you've used, freedom, the relief, it was like a whole new world. And in many, many, many ways, that was actually the point where I hit the reset button on my life. I'd thought I'd hit it a year earlier, right, in leaving the Sea organization, and in many ways I had, but it was really getting free of Scientology. It was 2013 and everything that happened during it that really put my life on the course that it's on now. And I'm very, very happy that happened. PTSD, yeah, absolutely. And I didn't even know what that was. I had no idea what I was experiencing for the first couple of years. I had so much to learn, and that was that process of reaching for knowledge and knowing that there were things I could know about my situation that could help me and that could help me deal with my situation, that prompted me to, to do the deep dives of research that I've been doing and sharing with you guys, that have helped me along with this, because it wasn't really a whole lot of counseling. I've only had a couple sessions of therapy, and it was okay. I recommend it for other people for sure, but I couldn't afford it and didn't really avail myself of that. So instead, I have used education as my mainline way of catharsis, and it's been very, very useful and helpful for me, and one that's a route that I push on other people too, because I think it's not just getting some relief from some of the the anxiety or the trouble or the strain or the worry and the depression even. You can go talk to somebody and feel better until you don't. And then you got to go talk to somebody again, or you got to have that self-conversation, or you got to work things out, or you got to journal, or you got to do something to sort that out. But when you learn things, when you learn about what goes on up here, or when you learn about what's going on in the whole body, when you learn about all this stuff, and you learn about anxiety and stress and trauma and psychiatry and all this stuff, then you can sort of, at least for me, I've been able to have self-conversations. I've been able to talk myself through some of this stuff. Not always. It's never a substitute for having another person there to listen to you, that's for sure. But it does make it easier when you have some concept that you can hold on to or grasp and go, okay, this is what's going on. I understand that even though sometimes people do this, even when the concept or the piece of information they're holding on to isn't even true. I look for true things. I want to believe true things, and I don't want to hold on to fantasies or delusions. So I take great pains to try to verify the truth of the things that I actually believe and accept as true. If I find out that something I've learned or think is false or wrong, then I delete it from my social media. If I've shared it, I try to make some measure to say, hey, I was wrong about that. I think that is also part of the process, though, for me, and I think it should be for everybody. If I was going to, start projecting on other people what they should be doing, I think the desire to learn and know and believe in true things is very basic, and will keep you out of a lot of trouble because it keeps you challenging your own ideas. And if there's anything that people who come out of cults need to do, it's they need to learn how to challenge their own ideas, because it was their ideas that landed them in the hot, and the soup in the first place. Yeah, they were conned. Yeah, they were lied to. Yeah, they were deceived. Yeah, they were even physically, sexually abused. And I'm not giving anybody a pass for any of that nonsense. That is total horseshit that had to happen to people. Abusers are abusive, but we are vulnerable to abusers when we don't challenge our own thoughts, when we have the idea that, hey, maybe something's wrong here. This guy's beating on me, or this woman is abusing me. We have the opportunity there, if we're not children stuck in that situation, if we're grown-ass adults, we have the ability and capacity to ask ourselves, is this really the best thing I should be doing right now? Is this really true? Is what I'm doing a sensible thing for me to do? Asking yourselves questions like that about everything you're involved in is vital to not getting conned or deceived, So this is where I go back to critical thinking all the time. Anyway, I'm throwing out a lot of stuff here, but these are lessons that I've won or learned. They were hard-won lessons. They were things I've had to learn along the way, and I think they were very useful for me in my recovery process, and that's why I share them so actively and energetically with everybody else. Anyway, that is kind of what my experience was like. You asked about that and the freedom of it and gaining my freedom back. And also learning in the big wide world, what kind of freedoms we should be entitled to. human rights, civil rights. I mean, learning where these things come from, what they're all about, why we think that they are rights and not privileges. These are things that are very important to learn about so that you don't let people in the future convince you otherwise. That's a whole nother thing. So anyway, I really believe in learning as a big key for that, obviously, if I haven't made that clear already. And that was what it was like for me to escape that situation and the immediate feelings I had after. And I hope that I've relayed that somehow in a, a sensible way.